Hey everyone, it's John here with another episode of Itchy Mysteries. And this was kind of a cool occurrence that happened. If you remember, a few weeks ago I reviewed a show called The Murder Detectives, and I was contacted on Twitter by the director of that show, David Nath, and it was really cool because I really appreciated the job that the director did with that particular topic. The review's there so you guys can watch it, but I highly recommend that you check out The Murder Detectives. Very well handled. And David told me that he also had another project and he was wondering if I would take a look at it. I did, and I want to share it with all of you. Now, before I tell you about that project, I want to give you a little bit of context to what that project is about. On Netflix here in the US, there is a show called Caught on Camera. And essentially what it's about is in the UK, they have a pretty intricate CCTV system where there are certain people working for the police department that are literally just watching cameras, and then they relay information to the police that are down on the streets about what's happening there. Now, I know for a lot of Americans, you hear cameras and we go, no way, privacy, I don't want people watching me wherever I go, blah, blah, blah. And that was kind of my first feeling when I saw that show. I was like, oh, this is going to be interesting. Watch how they're abusing the heck out of this. I started watching the show and seeing the way that they were implementing the cameras helping the police work and seeing the types of crimes that they were able to stop in the middle of them happening. I was kind of impressed to the point where it really made me kind of second guess my judgments about having cameras all over the place like that. And considering that these are public areas, and if it's used as a tool properly, it can really help head off some very extreme types of crimes. I mean, we're talking large-scale fights that are breaking out outside of bars. We're talking thefts that are going on in stores, or bad merchandise being sold to those stores. I mean, they're able to head off all kinds of crimes that personally I feel like here in the US, if you called the police, they would laugh you right off the phone for even suggesting that they come out and try to help you with some of these types of crimes that I'm seeing handled by these CCTV monitors. So, keeping all that in mind, I've already been thinking kind of about this topic, and in this weird twist of synergy, the director sends me a link to a film called The Watchman. Now this, I believe, is produced as a 1-hour piece of television, which means if you watch it without commercials, it's somewhere around 45 minutes. I believe it was originally produced for Channel 4 in the UK, and it's about one of these CCTV operators, a watchman. Let me read you just a little bit of the synopsis from IMDB.com. CCTV operator Carl becomes frustrated when the police refuse to tackle a gang of drug dealers. He takes the law in his own hands with devastating repercussions. And I think even that is a little bit simplistic for the many different dramatic threads that are going on within this. To be honest, I was very impressed with how much was compacted into this 44 minutes or so. And quite honestly, I feel like it could have easily been expanded out into a full feature film of some kind. But all that being said, I think it's good where it's at. It works in this format. I was hoping that there might be a sequel to it or a continuation of this story. I actually asked David about that on Twitter. He said there's no plans for a sequel, that he is also the writer of it. He said he could easily extend it out, but as of right now, there's no plans for it. I hope that might change at some point in the future, because I was just really, really impressed with this film. Now, Carl is played by an actor named Stephen Graham, who has some pretty good credits. Apparently, he was in one of the Pirates of the Caribbean films, a movie called This Is England, Gangs of New York, Public Enemies. Guy has some serious talent. He's got 4 wins and 6 nominations. I think most of his wins are for ensemble casts, but he is a very strong actor and certainly handles the role of Carl very, very well. It's really needed for this piece, because this piece is largely a character piece about Carl and kind of his night disintegrating in one way, his life disintegrating in another, and then his choice about what to do with that. what I was really attracted to in this film, I'm going to call it a film, I mean, it's essentially just a short film, was this aspect of watching crime through screens and how you feel limited in how you're able to help what's actually going on out there. That's certainly something that I struggle with regularly with what I do here, because everything I'm doing is reviewing these crimes through screens, and I'm really looking for ways to try to affect these things in a much more real-world fashion. Carl runs right up against that frustration as one of the main story points here. So it was just already very intelligently thought about. A couple of the things that I was saying that, kind of Americans would be worrying about in general about CCTVs being everywhere. A few of those, I guess I'll call them transgressions, kind of come up in the story here. They don't play a super prominent role, but once again, it'll raise the questions in your head. Would this really be a good thing or not? Could there really be invasions of privacy going on here? But that's not really the focus. The focus is really that it's this character piece. Almost in a strange way, it felt like almost like a superhero film, like at the beginning, before the guy figures out he's a superhero. And the real interesting and very humane thing that goes on here is you get this character, Carl, that's kind of flip-flopping, like he wants to do something, and then he tries to do something, and it doesn't go that great, and then he tries to retract from that and undo what he had done, and then he can't, so he has to go in even farther. It has a very realistically human approach to the events that happen in this that I don't see that often. I am interested in this topic of this type of law enforcement. I do think it's an important thing to think about, because if you search now, even if you're here in the US, there are certain cities that are starting to adopt very serious CCTV systems that are kind of in line with what we're seeing over there in the UK. So it might make sense to put a little thought towards this. Outside of all that, the drama in this is just really, really good. Not quite like a murder mystery, but there is certainly this element of not knowing what's going to happen next that strikes you. And I don't know if David, I think he did this on purpose. I think he was writing it so before you would get into each commercial break, he would have this kind of major like a cliffhanger that's resolved or a major twist in the story. It almost feels like a roller coaster ride. I mean, just it takes you to all these unexpected places, and pretty much, I think it's on average somewhere around every 6 to 8 minutes or so, there is a major kick in the story that moves you into the next thing, which is really, really cool. Anything that I can say about what doesn't work in this film? It's shot beautifully. I didn't really notice music. I know there was music in it, but I think that's a good thing, because it means that it didn't call my attention to it for not fitting in properly or for being inappropriately used. Supporting cast in this is very good. I don't know. The only thing, there was this little hiccup for me in the kind of throughput of the story. I don't want to spoil it for you guys, but there's this major event that happens kind of at the end of the first mini episode, right before the first commercial break. And the dramatic implication of how that affects Carl going forward, I'm not sure that that's as clearly outlined or highlighted as it could have been. But I'm telling you, that is just a minor, minor knock. I understand why that event happened. I understand how it affects things that happen after this. But in terms of how the actor was portraying Carl and in terms of how it was written, I think they didn't call that issue, they didn't call it back. Like at some point later in the story, there should have been just a line about it or some type of reflective moment for Carl where he kind of acknowledges to someone that he was really affected by that first thing that happened. There's a great place where it seems like that's going to happen, where his daughter actually kind of mentions it, but it doesn't really come to fruition that it looks like it has affected him all that much, primarily because there's other stuff going on. For a little film about a guy basically sitting in a room, I can't believe all the drama that David eked out of this, and he did it by really sticking to a very good character piece. It is an extremely well-written character piece. I think it's definitely worth your time. Right now on IMDb, it's rated about a 6.3 out of 10. I personally feel like that's low. I would easily give this a 7.5. It apparently has been nominated for a broadcast award. I'm wishing them luck. I don't know if those awards have happened or not yet, but wishing David luck. I think that he did a very fine piece of art here, and I hope that he gets more recognition for it. But for you brain scratchers out there, especially if you're interested in this topic about CCTV use in terms of law enforcement, I think this is a really good piece of drama that also has a lot of other fun elements to it going on. And when I got to the end of it, I can tell you guys, I didn't want it to end. Actually, when I got to the first commercial break, it's weird because the title card will come back up. It says The Watchman pretty much at every commercial break. I thought it was over when I hit the first one, and I was like, no way, no, it can't be over. Luckily, it continues, but even when it does hit the real ending, even though I could understand dramatically how that could end this episode or this part of the story, I didn't want it to. I wanted it to go on, and that's a big part of why I asked David, hey, is there going to be a follow-up on this? This character is very endearing in many ways, and I think I just sympathize with the guy a lot because of his frustrations of trying to help the world through a camera, which is a very tough thing for some of us out here. I don't know, guys. I hope you check it out. I will have a link to it on Vimeo in the description box below. There's no advertising. You can see the whole thing from start to end there. Let me know what you think about it in the comments below. And I'm personally a fan of David's work. He is doing another project. I think it's going to be another dramatic piece like this, kind of a one-off drama. I'll keep an eye out for that, and I will certainly let you guys know if it's available for us here in the US to view in some way. And maybe we'll do a review on that too, who knows. Thank you so much for hanging out with me on this episode. I hope each and every one of you out there is having an awesome day. Take care, everyone. I'll see you right back here on the Lord and Arts channel.